Orphan boy is mocked for his clothes. What he reveals leaves the bullies speechless. The playground buzzed with its usual chaos, kids running, laughing, and shouting as they chased each other around. But at the far edge of the playground, where the broken swings creaked in the wind, stood a boy who seemed completely out of place. His name was Liam, and he was known around the school as the Orphan boy. Liam's clothes were tattered and faded, the kind of garments that looked as though they had been passed down through generations and seen too many winters. His shoes were worn thin, with holes at the toes, and his shirt hung loosely from his slender frame. He stood quietly, his eyes downcast, as a group of boys began to circle around him. "Hey, Liam," sneered Brandon, the ringleader of the group, his voice dripping with mockery. "Where'd you get those clothes? The trash bin behind the thrift store?" The other boys laughed, their voices echoing across the playground. Liam didn't respond. He clenched his fists at his sides, but his face remained calm, almost serene. "What's the matter?" Brandon taunted, stepping closer. "Too ashamed to admit it? You're a nobody, Liam. No parents, no money, no future. You don't even belong here." The laughter grew louder, and soon other kids stopped what they were doing to watch the spectacle. Liam could feel their eyes on him, their curiosity and pity mixing into a heavy weight on his shoulders. But he didn't flinch. He had faced this kind of treatment before, and he had learned to endure it. The taunting continued, with Brandon and his friends poking fun at everything from Liam's shoes to the patched-up backpack slung over his shoulder. But then Brandon crossed a line. "Do you even have a home to go to, or do you sleep in the dumpster like the stray cat you are?" He sneered, leaning in close. The crowd gasped, and for a moment, there was a tense silence. Liam finally looked up, his piercing blue eyes locking onto Brandon's. There was a fire in his gaze that caught the bully off guard. "I might not have much," Liam said, his voice calm but firm. "But I've got something you'll never have." Brandon scoffed, folding his arms. "Oh yeah? What's that? A collection of fleas?" The crowd snickered nervously, unsure of where this was going. Liam reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet pouch. He held it tightly for a moment before slowly opening it to reveal a ring, a gleaming, brilliant diamond ring that sparkled in the sunlight. Gasps rippled through the crowd. What is that?" Brandon stammered, his cocky demeanor faltering. "This," Liam said, holding the ring up for everyone to see, "belonged to my mother. It's all I have left of her. And it's worth more than anything you'll ever own." The playground fell silent. The kids stared at the ring, their eyes wide with awe. Even the bullies were at a loss for words. Liam's voice, steady and filled with quiet strength, cut through the tension. "You think having fancy clothes or a big house makes you better than me? It doesn't. My mom gave me this ring before she passed away, and it reminds me every day to be strong, no matter what people like you say." The air was thick with silence as Liam's words settled over the group. Brandon's smirk had vanished, replaced by a mix of confusion and embarrassment. The other kids stared at the diamond ring, mesmerized by the way it caught the sunlight. Some of them began to whisper among themselves, but no one dared to speak loudly. Liam glanced around at the crowd, his grip on the ring steady. "I might not have parents anymore," he said, his voice firm but filled with emotion. "But that doesn't mean I'm less than anyone else. My mom told me that strength doesn't come from what you own, it comes from who you are. And I'd rather wear these old clothes every day of my life than treat someone the way you treat me." A murmur ran through the crowd. Some of the kids who had laughed earlier now looked down at their feet, ashamed. Brandon, however, wasn't ready to back down completely. "Yeah, well, it's still just a ring," he said, though his voice lacked the confidence it had before. "It doesn't change the fact that you're just a person," Liam interrupted, stepping forward. His gaze pierced through Brandon's bravado. "Just like you. Just like everyone here. Maybe it's time you stop tearing people down and start looking at yourself." Brandon opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. He glanced around, realizing the crowd wasn't on his side anymore. Some kids were nodding in agreement with Liam, while others stared at Brandon with disapproval. One of Brandon's friends, a boy named Eric, took a step back and muttered, "Come on, Brandon. Let's just go." Brandon hesitated, his face flushed with embarrassment, before turning on his heel and walking away. His friends followed, leaving Liam standing alone in the center of the playground. The silence lingered for a moment before a girl from the crowd stepped forward. "I'm sorry, Liam," she said softly. "I shouldn't have laughed." Liam looked at her, his expression softening. "It's okay," he said. "Just don't let people like Brandon decide who you are. You're better than that." The girl nodded, and slowly, more kids began to approach Liam, some apologizing, others simply wanting to see the ring up close. Liam carefully put it back into the velvet pouch and tucked it into his pocket. That afternoon, word of what had happened spread throughout the school. Teachers overheard the story, and even the principal called Liam into her office, not to scold him, but to praise his courage. "You showed incredible strength today, Liam," she said, her tone warm. "Standing up for yourself like that, and for others too. I hope you know how proud you should be." "Thank you," Liam said quietly. I'm tired of people thinking I'm less because I don't have what they have." The principal smiled. "You taught everyone an important lesson today, more than we could ever teach in a classroom." The next day, something surprising happened. As Liam arrived at school, he noticed a group of kids waiting for him near the gate. They weren't the usual faces that surrounded him. These kids looked nervous but determined. One of them, a boy named Jacob, stepped forward, holding a small paper bag. "Hey, Liam," Jacob said, his voice tentative. We wanted to give you this." Liam frowned, unsure of what to expect, but he took the bag. Inside, he found a brand new pair of shoes, along with a neatly folded shirt and a jacket that looked warm enough to withstand the coldest winter. "What's this?" Liam asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "It's just, we thought you might need it," Jacob said, scratching the back of his head. "You don't have to take it if you don't want to, but we just wanted to help." Liam stared at the items for a moment before looking up, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," he said softly. "This means more to me than you know." Jacob smiled, and soon the other kids began chiming in, asking Liam questions about his mom's ring and telling him how brave they thought he was. For the first time in a long while, Liam didn't feel like an outsider. He felt seen. As weeks passed, the atmosphere at school began to change. Brandon kept a low profile, clearly embarrassed by what had happened, while Liam found himself surrounded by newfound friends. The kids who once mocked him now looked up to him, inspired by his strength and resilience. One day, as Liam walked home from school, he reached into his pocket and pulled out the velvet pouch. He held the ring in his hand, letting the sunlight catch on its surface. He thought about his mom and the words she had told him before she passed. "Be strong, Liam. You're worth more than you know. And one day, the world will see it too." A small smile crossed Liam's face as he tucked the ring back into his pocket and continued walking. He knew the journey ahead wouldn't always be easy, but for the first time, he felt like he had a place in the world. A place he had earned, not because of what he owned, but because of who he was. And that, Liam realized, was more valuable than any treasure. Liam's transformation at school became a story that reached far beyond the playground. Teachers began to notice how the dynamic among students was shifting. The conversations in the hallways became less about who had the newest clothes or the coolest gadgets and more about the values Liam had unknowingly brought to the forefront: kindness, courage, and the strength to rise above adversity. One teacher, Ms. Dawson, who taught history, pulled Liam aside after class one day. "Liam," she said, her voice gentle but full of admiration, "what you did on that playground was remarkable. It takes real courage to stand up to bullies, but even more to do so with dignity." Liam shrugged shyly. "I just wanted them to stop." Ms. Dawson smiled. "You did more than that. You made them think. That's not something everyone can do." She handed him a small envelope. "The school has a scholarship program for students who show exceptional character and leadership. I've nominated you. You deserve it." Liam blinked in surprise, his heart racing as he accepted the envelope. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "You've earned it," Ms. Dawson said warmly. "And don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise." As Liam walked home that day, the envelope clutched tightly in his hand, he couldn't help but feel overwhelmed. He thought about his mom and how proud she would be of him. Everything she had taught him, the values she had instilled, were now helping him navigate a world that often felt stacked against him. When he got home, he carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a letter congratulating him on being awarded a merit-based scholarship that would cover his educational expenses for the next 3 years. Tears welled up in his eyes as he read the words. It wasn't just about the financial relief, it was about the validation that came with it. For so long, he had felt invisible, but now he was finally being seen for who he truly was. The next morning, as Liam walked into school, something extraordinary happened. Kids who had once ignored him smiled and greeted him warmly. One girl even walked up to him and handed him a drawing she had made, a picture of Liam holding up his mom's ring, surrounded by a group of kids. "I drew this for you," she said, blushing, "because you're really brave." Liam looked at the drawing, his chest tightening with emotion. "Thank you," he said, smiling at her. "This is amazing." Word of Liam's scholarship spread quickly, and it only solidified his place as a symbol of resilience and hope within the school. Even Brandon, who had avoided Liam since the incident on the playground, seemed to have changed. One afternoon, Brandon approached Liam near the lockers, his expression uncharacteristically humble. "Hey," Brandon muttered, scratching the back of his head. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I was a jerk, and you didn't deserve that." Liam studied him for a moment, surprised by the apology. "Thanks," he said finally. "I appreciate that." Brandon nodded awkwardly. "If you ever, need anything, just let me know." Liam smiled faintly. "Thanks, Brandon. I'll remember that." The months that followed were some of the happiest of Liam's life. He found a group of friends who supported and respected him, and he thrived both academically and socially. The scholarship gave him the opportunity to participate in extracurricular activities, and he joined the school's debate team, where he discovered a talent for public speaking. At the end-of-year assembly, Liam was invited to speak in front of the entire school as part of the awards ceremony. Standing on the stage, looking out at the sea of faces, some familiar, some not, he took a deep breath and began. "A few months ago, I never would have imagined standing here," he said. "I've been through a lot, and for a long time, I felt like I didn't belong. But what I've learned is that belonging doesn't come from what you have or how you look. It comes from being true to yourself." He paused, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. "To anyone who's ever felt like they don't fit in, I want you to know that you matter. You're enough just as you are. And the world needs people like you, people who are strong, kind, and brave." The auditorium erupted into applause, and Liam felt a sense of pride and belonging that he had never known before. Years later, Liam would look back on that moment as the turning point in his life. It was the moment he realized that the pain he had endured wasn't a curse, it was a gift. It had taught him empathy, resilience, and the importance of standing up for what was right. As an adult, Liam went on to become a motivational speaker, sharing his story with audiences around the world. He used his platform to advocate for kindness and inclusion, reminding people that every challenge was an opportunity to grow stronger. And through it all, he kept his mother's ring close, a constant reminder of the strength and love that had guided him through even the darkest times. Because in the end, Liam had proven that true worth isn't measured by the clothes you wear or the things you own. It's measured by the size of your heart and the strength of your character. Liam's journey into adulthood was shaped by the experiences he had as a child. The lessons of resilience, empathy, and quiet strength carried him through every challenge life threw his way. As he grew older, his story became a source of inspiration not only to those around him but also to people he had never met. In college, Liam pursued a degree in social work, driven by a desire to give back to children who, like him, faced adversity at a young age. His professors were captivated by his passion and his ability to connect with others on a deeply human level. He often shared his experiences of being mocked and underestimated, and how those moments had shaped his determination to make a difference. During his senior year, Liam took on an internship at a non-profit organization that worked with underprivileged children. There, he met a young boy named Oliver who reminded him of his younger self. Oliver was quiet, withdrawn, and often avoided eye contact. Like Liam, he came from a difficult background and wore the weight of the world on his small shoulders. One afternoon, Liam sat down with Oliver during an art therapy session. "Hey, Oliver," Liam said gently. "That's a really cool drawing you're working on. Can you tell me about it?" Oliver hesitated for a moment before pointing to a small figure he had drawn in the corner of the page. "That's me," he said quietly. "I'm trying to hide." Liam's heart ached at the words. "Why are you hiding?" "Because everyone laughs at me," Oliver said, his voice barely above a whisper. "They say I'm weird." Liam placed a comforting hand on Oliver's shoulder. "You know," he said, "I used to feel the same way. But then I realized something. Being different isn't a bad thing. It's what makes you special." Oliver looked up at Liam, his eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and hope. "You really think so?" "I know so," Liam said with a warm smile. "And one day, the people who laugh at you now will see how amazing you are." That moment with Oliver sparked something in Liam. He realized that his purpose wasn't just to overcome his own struggles. It was to help others do the same. After graduating, Liam joined the nonprofit full-time, dedicating his life to empowering children and teens who faced challenges similar to his own. He started a program called Rising Above, which provided mentorship, counseling, and resources to young people from disadvantaged backgrounds. The program quickly gained traction, and Liam's work caught the attention of local media. Before long, his story was featured in newspapers and on television, bringing even more attention to his mission. One day, as Liam was organizing an event for Rising Above, he received a letter in the mail. The handwriting was unfamiliar, but as he opened the envelope, his breath caught. Inside was a note from Brandon, the boy who had tormented him on the playground all those years ago. "Dear Liam, I've been following your work with Rising Above, and I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I was awful to you back in school, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't regret it. Seeing everything you've accomplished, I can't help but feel ashamed of the way I treated you. You didn't deserve it. I've learned a lot since then, and I'm trying to be a better person. If you're ever willing to talk, I'd really like the chance to apologize in person. Sincerely, Brandon." Liam stared at the letter for a long moment, emotions swirling inside him. The hurt he had carried for so many years mingled with an unexpected sense of understanding. He knew better than anyone that people could change, and he felt a pull to give Brandon the chance to prove he had. A week later, they met at a small cafe in town. Brandon looked nervous as he sat across from Liam, his once confident demeanor replaced with humility. "Liam," Brandon began, his voice shaky, "I don't even know where to start. I was horrible to you, and I don't expect you to forgive me. I needed to tell you that I'm sorry." Liam studied him for a moment before speaking. "Brandon, you hurt me. A lot. But I've learned that holding on to anger doesn't help anyone. What matters to me is that you've taken responsibility for your actions and that you're trying to do better." Brandon nodded, his eyes glistening with gratitude. "Thank you. That means more to me than I can say." As they talked, Liam shared how those difficult experiences had shaped him, and Brandon opened up about his own struggles and regrets. By the end of their conversation, there was a sense of closure, a recognition that they had both grown in ways they couldn't have imagined. Years later, Rising Above expanded into a national organization, touching the lives of thousands of children and teens. Liam became a sought-after speaker, traveling the world to share his message of resilience, compassion, and the power of transformation. At one event, as he stood on stage before a packed auditorium, Liam held up his mother's ring. It still sparkled as brightly as it had on that fateful day in the playground. "This ring," Liam said, his voice filled with emotion, "is more than a piece of jewelry. It's a symbol of strength, love, and the belief that we are all worth more than the world might tell us. No matter where you come from or what you've been through, you have the power to rise above. And when you do, you can inspire others to do the same." The crowd erupted into applause, and Liam smiled, knowing that his story had come full circle. What had started as pain and struggle had blossomed into a legacy of hope and change, a legacy that would continue to inspire for generations to come. Years passed, and Rising Above became a beacon of hope for countless young people. The organization's reach expanded globally, with chapters opening in countries around the world. Liam remained at the helm, ensuring that the core values of empathy, strength, and inclusivity were always at the heart of its mission. Every program, every mentorship initiative, every community event carried the essence of Liam's journey, a message that no matter how difficult life could be, it was always possible to rise above. One of the most transformative moments for the organization came when Liam launched a partnership with schools in underserved areas. The initiative, called the Bright Futures Program, aimed to provide mentorship, scholarships, and life skills to children who faced systemic barriers to success. The program's impact was immediate and profound, with graduation rates and college admissions skyrocketing in participating schools. At one such school, Liam met a young girl named Sophia. She was shy, often sitting in the back of the classroom and avoiding attention. But when Liam shared his story during a school assembly, something shifted in Sophia. After the assembly, she approached him, her voice trembling but determined. "Mr. Liam," she said, clutching her notebook tightly, "your story, it's kind of like mine. I don't have much, but I want to do something big. I just don't know how." Liam knelt down to meet her gaze. "Sophia, the first step to doing something big is believing you can. And the second step is asking for help when you need it. That's why I'm here, to help you take those steps." Sophia's eyes lit up with hope. From that day on, she became a regular at the mentorship sessions, eventually finding her voice and excelling in school. Years later, Sophia would become a leader in Rising Above, paying forward the support she had received and helping countless other children find their own paths to success. As Liam approached his 40th birthday, he decided it was time to reflect on his life's journey in a new way. With encouragement from his team and friends, he began writing a memoir titled Rising Above, Turning Pain into Purpose. The book chronicled his experiences, from the playground where he had stood up to his bullies to the global impact of the organization he had built. Writing the memoir wasn't easy. Revisiting the painful moments of his past brought back emotions Liam had long buried. But as he poured his heart into the pages, he realized that his story wasn't just about the struggles. It was about the triumphs, the people who had supported him, and the lessons he had learned along the way. When the book was published, it became an instant bestseller. Readers from all walks of life connected with Liam's story, finding inspiration in his resilience and determination. Letters and emails flooded in from people who shared how the book had given them the courage to face their own challenges. One letter, in particular, stood out to Liam. It was from a man who had been a bully himself as a child. He wrote about how reading Liam's memoir had forced him to confront his actions and seek forgiveness from those he had hurt. "Your story taught me that it's never too late to change," the man wrote. "I can't undo the harm I caused, but I can spend the rest of my life making amends. Thank you for showing me the way." Liam read the letter with tears in his eyes, reminded once again of the power of vulnerability and honesty. As Rising Above celebrated its 20th anniversary, a gala was held to honor the organization's achievements and the lives it had transformed. The event was attended by hundreds of people, including former beneficiaries, current leaders, and supporters from around the world. The night was filled with heartfelt speeches, success stories, and moments of reflection. During the gala, a surprise video montage was played, featuring messages from people whose lives had been touched by Liam's work. Sophia, now a director at Rising Above, was among them. "Liam," she said in the video, her voice full of gratitude, "you didn't just change my life, you showed me how to believe in myself. You taught me that our past doesn't define us, our choices do. Thank you for giving me the tools to rise above." As the video ended, the crowd erupted into applause, and Liam was invited to the stage. Standing before the audience, he took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "This isn't just my story," Liam began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "It's the story of every person who has ever felt invisible, who has ever been told they don't belong, and who has ever doubted their worth. Rising Above exists because of you, because of the strength, courage, and potential that lies within every single one of us." He paused, looking out at the sea of faces. "My mother once told me that strength doesn't come from what you own, it comes from who you are. And tonight, as I stand here surrounded by so much love and hope, I know she was right. Together, we've proven that no matter where we come from, we all have the power to rise above." The room filled with a standing ovation, the sound of applause echoing like a heartbeat of hope. In the years that followed, Liam continued to lead Rising Above with unwavering passion. He expanded its reach, introduced new programs, and mentored a new generation of leaders who would carry the mission forward. Though he had faced so much adversity in his life, Liam had turned every challenge into an opportunity to inspire and uplift others. And through it all, he kept his mother's ring close, a symbol of the love and strength that had guided him from the very beginning. As Liam often said, the greatest legacy isn't what we leave behind. It's the lives we touch and the hope we ignite in others. That's what it means to truly rise above. As Liam's work with Rising Above continued to grow, so did the stories of the lives he had touched. His vision of empowering the underprivileged and the misunderstood became a global movement, with his organization's core principles taught in schools, workplaces, and even government programs. Rising Above's impact was undeniable, but Liam remained humble, always focusing on the people his work was helping rather than the accolades he received. One day, while reviewing letters from beneficiaries, Liam came across a letter from someone he hadn't heard from in years, Eric, one of Brandon's former friends who had also been part of the group that mocked him as a child. Dear Liam, I hope this letter finds you well. I've been following your work for years, and I want to start by saying how proud I am of everything you've accomplished. I'm writing to you because there's something I've carried with me for a long time, a deep regret for the way I treated you when we were kids. I wasn't as vocal as Brandon, but I laughed. I stood there and let it happen, and I never stood up for you. For that, I am truly sorry. Your story has inspired me in more ways than I can say. I want you to know that I've spent the last several years trying to make up for my past mistakes. I've started a community outreach program in my neighborhood, helping kids who are bullied or struggling to find their place. It's not much, but it's my way of trying to make the world a better place. If you're ever in town, I'd love to meet and show you the program. Thank you for showing us that even the worst mistakes can be the start of something better. With gratitude, Liam smiled softly as he read the letter. It was yet another reminder of how far his journey had come, and how even those who once caused harm could find redemption. A few weeks later, Liam arranged to visit Eric's community center. When he arrived, he was greeted by a group of kids playing basketball on a small outdoor court. The center was modest but vibrant, filled with laughter, art, and signs of hope. Eric greeted Liam at the entrance, his face a mixture of nerves and excitement. Liam, Eric said, extending his hand. I can't tell you how much this means to me. Liam shook his hand warmly. It means a lot to me too. Thank you for inviting me. Eric gave Liam a tour of the center, showing him the after-school programs, the mentorship initiatives, and the safe spaces they had created for kids who needed support. As they walked, Eric spoke candidly about his journey. When I saw you standing up to Brandon that day on the playground, it planted a seed, Eric admitted. I didn't realize it then, but you showed me what courage looks like. It just took me years to understand it, and even longer to act on it. Liam placed a hand on Eric's shoulder. What matters is that you acted on it. You're making a difference, Eric. That's what counts. The visit to Eric's community center reignited Liam's passion for grassroots efforts. He decided to launch a new initiative within Rising Above called Bridges Beyond, which focused on empowering local leaders to create change in their own communities. The program provided grants, resources, and mentorship to individuals like Eric who wanted to make a difference. The success of Bridges Beyond was immediate and profound. In one town, a single mother started a program to teach financial literacy to other struggling parents. In another, a retired teacher organized a literacy drive for children without access to books. Each project was unique, but they all shared one thing: the belief that small, local efforts could create massive ripple effects. As Liam celebrated his 50th birthday, the team at Rising Above organized a surprise event in his honor. It wasn't a lavish affair, just a gathering of the people whose lives he had impacted. As he walked into the room, he was greeted by a wall of smiling faces, from kids he had mentored to adults who had taken part in his programs. One by one, they shared their stories. A teenager who had once been homeless spoke about how Rising Above had helped her graduate high school and earn a scholarship. A former bully shared how Liam's example had inspired him to become a school counselor, helping others break the cycle of hurt. Each story was a testament to the power of Liam's work. When it was Liam's turn to speak, he struggled to find the words. "I never imagined this," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "When I was a kid standing on that playground, all I wanted was for the pain to stop. I didn't know that moment would become the start of something so much bigger." He looked around the room, his gaze lingering on each face. "This isn't just my story, it's ours. Every one of you is proof that resilience and kindness can change the world. And as long as we keep lifting each other up, there's nothing we can't overcome." The room erupted into applause, and Liam felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. It wasn't the recognition or the success that mattered, it was the knowledge that he had made a difference. In the years that followed, Liam continued to expand Rising Above, always finding new ways to empower others. He became a beloved figure not just for what he had accomplished, but for the humility and compassion with which he led. And though he never sought the spotlight, his story became a guiding light for people around the world. When Liam eventually stepped down from his role at Rising Above, he passed the torch to a new generation of leaders, confident that the organization would continue to thrive. In his retirement, he focused on writing, mentoring, and spending time with the family he had built, friends, colleagues, and the countless people who considered him a part of their lives. Through it all, Liam kept his mother's ring close, a reminder of the love and strength that had carried him through every challenge. And as he reflected on his journey, he knew one thing for certain. The greatest gift we can give the world is to believe in others, and to help them rise above. In the twilight of his life, Liam found himself reflecting on the profound journey he had walked. A life that began with struggles and ridicule but blossomed into one of purpose, hope, and change. He remained deeply connected to Rising Above, not as its active leader but as its heart and soul, guiding and mentoring the new generation who had taken over its reins. One summer evening, as Liam sat on the porch of his modest but welcoming home, a familiar face arrived at his doorstep. It was Sophia, now a thriving leader within Rising Above and one of the organization's most prominent voices. She carried a small package in her hands, her expression both excited and nostalgic. "Liam," Sophia said, handing him the box, "we wanted to give you something. A few of us got together to create this. It's our way of saying thank you for everything you've done." Liam opened the box carefully, revealing a leather-bound book with the title embossed in gold, "Lives Lifted, the Ripple Effect of Rising Above." Inside were hundreds of letters, photos, and stories from people whose lives had been touched by the organization. Each page carried a personal account of how Rising Above had given them the tools, hope, or courage to change their circumstances. Liam's hands trembled as he flipped through the pages. There were stories from people he had mentored, like Sophia, but also from strangers he had never met. Single parents, former bullies, children who grew up to become leaders. Each story was a testament to the legacy he had built, not with wealth or power, but with compassion and resilience. "I don't know what to say," Liam said, his voice thick with emotion. This means everything to me." Sophia smiled. "You've changed so many lives, Liam. We wanted you to see just how far your ripple has spread." In the years that followed, Lives Lifted became more than just a gift to Liam. It became a source of inspiration for others. Published as a book, it raised millions for Rising Above's programs and reached audiences worldwide. People from all walks of life read the stories and felt empowered to create change in their own communities. Liam's story was also adapted into a documentary, Rise, the Liam Daniels story. The film chronicled his life, from the quiet boy on the playground clutching his mother's ring to the global leader who had inspired millions. Interviews with former classmates, teachers, and beneficiaries painted a picture of a man who had turned adversity into a platform for change. One day, as Liam walked through the garden he had lovingly tended for years, he found himself thinking of his mother. He still carried her ring in his pocket, the same ring that had been a source of strength and pride on that fateful day in the playground. He thought about her words, "You're worth more than you know, Liam. And one day, the world will see it too." The world had seen it. But more importantly, Liam had come to see it in himself. As Liam's 80th birthday approached, Rising Above's board of directors organized a celebration to honor his life and legacy. The event was held in the same city where Liam had grown up, a symbolic nod to how far he had come. Thousands of people attended, from former classmates who had once mocked him to global leaders who had been inspired by his work. During the event, Liam was presented with a Lifetime Achievement Award, a beautifully crafted sculpture of a hand reaching upward, a symbol of his commitment to lifting others. As he stood on the stage, the crowd erupted into applause, their admiration and gratitude filling the air. Liam raised a hand to quiet the room, his voice still strong despite his age. "This isn't just my award," he said, looking out at the sea of faces. "It belongs to every single person who has dared to rise above their circumstances. It belongs to the teachers, mentors, and leaders who believe in the power of compassion. And it belongs to every child who has ever been told they don't belong, because they do. You all do." The applause was deafening, and as Liam stepped off the stage, he was surrounded by friends, family, and strangers who wanted to thank him for his work. In the final years of his life, Liam spent his days quietly, surrounded by the people he loved. He continued to write, mentor, and garden, finding peace in the simple joys of life. His home became a place of gathering for young leaders, eager to learn from the man who had turned pain into purpose. When Liam passed away at the age of 92, the world mourned the loss of a true visionary. Tributes poured in from every corner of the globe, celebrating the life of a man who had shown that strength comes not from what you have, but from who you are. At his memorial service, held in the very playground where his journey began, a large crowd gathered to honor his memory. Sophia, now the CEO of Rising Above, delivered a eulogy that captured the essence of Liam's life. "Liam taught us that the greatest strength comes from kindness," Sophia said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "He showed us that even in the face of adversity, we can rise above, and when we do, we can lift others with us." His life was a testament to the power of resilience and love. And though he's no longer with us, his legacy will live on in every life he touched. The ceremony ended with a small gesture. Children from Rising Above's programs each placed a single flower at the base of a statue of Liam that had been erected in the playground. The statue depicted Liam as a young boy, holding his mother's ring high, his face filled with quiet determination. As the sun set that evening, casting a golden glow over the playground, one thing was clear: Liam's story was far from over. It lived on in the lives of those he had inspired, in the work of Rising Above, and in the belief that no matter how difficult life may seem, we all have the power to rise above. Though Liam was no longer physically present, his influence continued to ripple across the world. Rising Above flourished, evolving to address new challenges and reaching even more people in need. His vision of a world where empathy and resilience could transform lives became a guiding principle for communities, governments, and organizations everywhere. The statue of Liam in the playground became a place of pilgrimage for those who had been inspired by his story. Teachers brought their students there to talk about kindness and courage. Parents pointed to the statue as they told their children, "This is what it means to make a difference." For generations, it remained a symbol of hope and perseverance. Several years after Liam's passing, the team at Rising Above embarked on an ambitious project, a global leadership summit dedicated to his legacy. Titled the Liam Daniels Legacy Summit, the event brought together activists, educators, and innovators from around the world to discuss solutions to pressing social issues. The summit became an annual event, each year focusing on a different theme inspired by Liam's values: education, inclusion, mental health, and more. During the first summit, Sophia delivered the opening address. Standing on a stage adorned with photos of Liam throughout his life, she spoke about the enduring power of his message. "Liam taught us that true leadership isn't about power or status, it's about service," Sophia said. "He believed that every person has the potential to make the world better, not just for themselves, but for others." This summit is a continuation of that belief. It's our way of carrying his legacy forward, one act of kindness at a time. The summit attracted thousands of attendees and sparked initiatives that tackled issues ranging from child poverty to workplace inequality. One of the most moving moments came during a panel discussion when a young woman named Aisha shared her story. Aisha had grown up in a refugee camp, facing unimaginable hardships, but through rising above, she had found the support and mentorship she needed to pursue her dreams. Now, she was a teacher, educating children who, like her, had faced incredible adversity. Liam's story showed me that no matter where we come from, we all have worth, Aisha said. He gave me the courage to believe in myself, and now I'm passing that belief on to my students. Meanwhile, the book Lives Lifted continued to inspire people worldwide. It was translated into dozens of languages and became required reading in schools and universities. Educators used it to teach lessons on empathy, resilience, and the importance of community. Liam's story became a touchstone for discussions on overcoming adversity and creating meaningful change. At one university, a professor held a seminar on the book, inviting students to reflect on how they could apply its lessons in their own lives. One student, Daniel, spoke up during the discussion. "I grew up in foster care, and for a long time, I felt like I didn't matter," Daniel said. "But reading about Liam's journey made me realize that I do have something to offer. It's inspired me to start a mentoring program for kids in foster care, so they know they're not alone." Daniel's program became a success, helping hundreds of foster children find support and opportunities. Like so many others, he was living proof of Liam's belief that a single act of kindness could create a ripple effect of change. In the decades that followed, Liam's name became synonymous with hope and transformation. Schools, community centers, and even hospitals were named in his honor, each one a testament to the lives he had touched. His birthday was declared Rising Above Day, a global celebration of kindness and resilience where people were encouraged to perform acts of service in their communities. But perhaps the most enduring part of Liam's legacy was the mindset he had inspired. Across the world, people began to see challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities to grow and uplift others. Children who once felt invisible found their voices. Adults who had given up on their dreams found the strength to try again. And communities that had been fractured by division found unity in the shared goal of rising above. One quiet morning, decades after Liam's passing, a young boy named Max visited the playground where Liam's statue stood. Max had heard stories about Liam from his grandmother, who had been part of Rising Above in its early years. He walked up to the statue and placed a single flower at its base. "Thank you, Mr. Liam," Max whispered. "I want to be like you when I grow up." As Max stood there, the sun broke through the clouds, casting a warm glow over the statue. It was as if Liam's spirit was still watching over the world, guiding it toward a future where everyone could rise above. And in that moment, it was clear, Liam's legacy wasn't just about the life he had lived. It was about the lives he had changed, the hope he had ignited, and the belief that no matter how difficult life may seem, we all have the power to make it better. Because the world didn't just remember Liam Daniels. It carried him forward, in every act of kindness, every moment of courage, and every person who dared to rise above.